Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier, and thank you kindly for stopping by. I had quite an adventure over the last 24 hours. I thank my friend from way back when the NSC was at Nation Centre, and I met Nkoregamba, Mwebesa, and he was the CEO of the Nairobi Securities Exchange then. He now runs Standard Bank Group's securities here in Nairobi, and he invited me down to say something at their investor relations conference, which was on the beach, which is frankly a great place to host one if you are going to host one, I would have thought. So thank you, Gori. I'll put up a photograph of the seaside in the early evening, and another one of the actual setting, which was down on the beach, and it really was enjoyable. And I spoke about the Indian Ocean, about the fact that I feel that the centre of economic gravity is moving once more back towards the Indian Ocean, where it was many centuries ago. Or then it was a centre of economic gravity because of the reversible escalator monsoon wind, which would bring people all the way from India down to Mozambique and then take them back again. But I was talking about the fact that I thought the Indian Ocean was now much more a critical node in the world economy, and there was a bunch of themes around that, frankly. Mindspeak, I'm looking forward to hosting Dennis McCory in a week's time on Saturday. Dennis is a great story to tell. Do come and listen. About an $8-9 million turnover business a year, 31 years old, really has a lot of ambition, and I think is well worth listening to. Of course, we've had great guests this year. We've had Christine Lagarde, we've had Titus Naikuni, Charles Ireland, Dr. Richard Sesibera, Munir Ahmed, and Joshua Oigara, and I'm grateful to all of them. If you want to have a look at any of those presentations, the link is on Rich Wrap-Ups if you go to have a look. And similarly, if you want to have a look at Lagarde's Mindspeak, which was obviously full of drama and excitement, that link is on YouTube as well. My home thoughts return, of course, to yesterday evening. I'll put up a panoramic photograph I took of the Indian Ocean. It was very quiet down there. And walking the grounds in the early evening felt like I was in Getty ruins when it was just you and the monkeys, frankly, a little eerie. Very sad because, of course, I come from there, and I can understand, when the tourism economy is on its knees, the coast is on its knees, I'm afraid. Political reflections, it's especially chilling. This was a sentence in Bloomberg View. It's especially chilling that Foley's executioner had a British accent. At some point, these people return home unless killed or arrested. They will return brainwashed and brutalized. And it's this interconnectedness, isn't it, which is extremely worrying. The number of lone wolves, people who are prepared to do this kind of thing, seems to be, in percentage terms, even if it's minuscule, it's still material in terms of the actual numbers. Mohammed Deif's wife and daughter were killed in the strike. Musa Abu Marzouk, a political leader of Hamas, wrote in a Facebook post, adding that Deif was still alive. And then I saw a tweet from Haaretz saying, I wonder how Netanyahu would feel if his wife and daughter were killed, which I thought was interesting coming from Haaretz. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a Tel Aviv news conference that Hamas had received their biggest blow ever. That obviously remains fragile, and there is no permanent ceasefire seemingly, or everyone seems loath to call it. It's a sort of quasi-ceasefire, or any word other than ceasefire. Ebola virus disease update. This is from WHO. Between 17th and 18th August, a total of 221 new cases of Ebola virus disease, laboratory confirmed probable and suspect cases, as well as 106 deaths were reported from Guinea, Liberia, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone. Currently, some companies have taken the decision to suspend services to the affected countries. This includes airlines and shipping companies. As a result of these decisions, countries are beginning to experience supply shortages, including fuel, food, and basic supplies. who is working with the UN World Food Programme to ensure adequate food and supplies, but calls on companies to make business decisions based on scientific evidence with regard to the transmission of the Ebola virus. I wrote that piece over the weekend. The Ebola virus is non-linear. And I said, viruses exhibit non-linear and exponential characteristics. And I felt the new cheek-by-jowl living arrangements in so many of our cities surely present the Ebola virus with optimal conditions. I'm not sure we've reached the tipping point yet. I think the stats are undercounted. Currency markets, the euro plumbed to fresh lows, 132.66. Dollar index really beginning to perk up, 82.25. Japanese yen softer, 103.80. Swissy 0.9128. Pound below 166, 165.84. Aussie 0.9283. India rupee 60.737. South Korean won 10.2354. The Rial 226.23. Egyptian pound 7.1481, and the South African rand softer at 10.7064. Put up a 3-month chart of the euro dollar. That doesn't look as if it's going to bounce anytime soon to me. In particular, after you look at this 3-month dollar index chart, you'll see it's beginning to look plain dangerous. The dollar, i.e. strong. Gold was last at 1280.155. Given the recent strength of the dollar, I think gold is headed lower. Crude oil, $92.78. That's at multi-month lows in point of fact. The dollar versus rand, 10.7057. Headline consumer inflation slowed to 6.3% in July, but obviously, the downgrading of the banking sector, which is pretty wholesale, although the other ratings agency didn't follow through, I think softened up the rand. Egyptian pound, 7.1481. I found this comment interesting from CEO Whitey Basson. Against the backdrop of South Africa growing so badly and the company having to maintain growth over the next 10 years, our investment priorities are shifting toward Africa. And I think this is a trend we're going to continue to see amongst Sub-Saharan African, amongst South African corporates. They're sort of moving deeper and deeper into Sub-Saharan Africa, and so they should. Britam reported first half profit after tax accelerated 27.25%. Pretty strong results all round. Net earned premiums up 32.979%. Investment income up 24.11%. Total revenue up 28.256%. Profit before tax up 31.98%. Strong first half gains on revaluation of financial assets at fair value through other comprehensive income as well. Regional offices contribution grew 54.9%. Asset base grew 28.3%. It's rallied a great deal this year. These were strong and muscular earnings, but a lot of this now is baked into the price, in my view. Kenal Cobil reported very strong first half results. Profit after tax up 260.44%. Net sales slashed 33.846%. First half gross profit 2.944 billion versus 2.693 billion. Other income was up 31.151%. They slashed admin and operating expenses 21.913%. First half profit before tax up 299%. And a significantly better closing cash position at the end of the year of 6.64 billion shillings versus 1.104 billion last time. In the company commentary, this improvement results from the continuation of management's focus on the 5 major areas mentioned in the 2013 annual report, namely corporate restructuring, financing costs and operating costs, human resources realignment, and risk reduction. Gross margins as percentage to sales improved to 6.8% for the period versus 4.1% for the previous reporting period and 4.5% for the previous full year period. So slashing revenues 33.846%, improved margins to 6.8%. Strong results, I thought. And it's traded very well today, up about, at some point it was trading up at its daily limit. Kenya hotel occupancy rates plunge as industry job losses mount. Kenyan hotel occupancy rates have plunged to as low as 12% after foreign governments issued advisories against travelling to the coastal region and the capital Nairobi due to concerns about insecurity. At least 20 hotels have temporarily closed, leaving an average of 100 workers per site unemployed. At this time of the year, hotel occupancy levels typically range between 70 and 80%. We are calling upon employers to consider reopening because this is when the high season begins. If you haven't had a chance to look at that interview I did with Mahmoud and Mohammed, and I did it because I felt there was a lot of there wasn't much accuracy in what was being said, and I think he really gave a very definitive answer to the weakness levels, the situation that's pertaining in the region, and a medium-term view as well. Nakumatt has announced plans to list on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, that have done this ad infinitum, and neighbouring stock markets within the next 3 years. The retail chain has also said it will sell a 25% stake within the next 6 to 12 months to fund growth. It is instructive to note that given that we're now considering to sell an equity stake and not a strategic investment, the stake in consideration will be significantly less than 25%, he said in a statement. Kenya shilling remains weak and at year lows at 88.343, and this is probably in part weak tourism receipts. But I think you've had a pretty big plunge in the price of crude oil, which is a key driver of the shilling. And given that, I'm expecting a little bit of a recovery from here. But this is key chart support. We break down here, and we can break down much further. Once again, and short and sweet this time, because I've just come in from one of my favourite airports, which is Wilson Airport, because as I once wrote when I was going somewhere else, it's like a portal to another world, whether it's like Kipia, Lewa, the Mara. This time it was Diani. Everyone's so excited as they sit in there and get on these little planes that crisscross the continent. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by. I do appreciate it.